Here's something nobody in the industry wants to talk about. And when I talk about the industry, I mean the real estate industry. Sellers are just as lost as buyers. Developers spend millions marketing properties into markets they don't understand. Agencies can't seem to grow beyond their markets and their existing networks. Buyers can't do enough research. Buyers don't know where to buy. Buyers actually don't have access to the markets that they would actually want to buy in. And everyone in the chain, and I mean everyone, pretends the system works. It doesn't, and today's guest has the receipts. James Puddle has spent over 2 decades on the inside of this machine. He founded One Global Group in Singapore in 2017 with one bet, that Asian investors wanted access to international property, and nobody was serving them properly. He built that from one person to 50 plus staff across multiple offices. He became head of international residential for Southeast Asia at JLL. He has marketed property from the UK, Thailand, Australia, Japan. Now he's the COO and my co-founder at Intric, which means he's the person responsible for making sure what we built actually fixes what he spent 20 years watching break. This is going to be a direct conversation. James and I know each other very well. We work very well together, but today I wanted to get his perspective on the selling side of real estate industry. James, welcome to Own the World.
Thanks, Abhii. It's great to be here. It's good to be talking about what we do every day.
Yeah, so great to have you here as well. And it's been such an exciting journey over the last year. We've been to so many different countries. We've spoken to developers, agencies, partners in more than 40 countries, I think. But I think everyone would want to know more about your journey before we started Intric. So maybe you can walk us through how it's been for you in the real estate industry over the last 2 decades.
Started my career in the London residential market about 20 years ago. I started working for first one of the bigger agencies called Hamptons International back then, and more on the development consultancy side, but started to move towards new construction sales at that time. And we were in a very different world then. I then got a bit of a taste for it in terms of helping developers market their projects overseas, and spent quite a lot of time in Hong Kong and Singapore. And then skipping forward to that after, about 10 years ago now, it was around the time Brexit happened in the UK, and my wife's half Singaporean, and we decided that we wanted to relocate to Singapore. So at that point in time, I was working for a great brand called Stratton Parker in London. Brilliant brand, brilliant time in the industry. I resigned from my time there and set up a real estate company called One Global Group. At the time, it was a big risk. We were in a market then that was changing from what it was previously. It was an interesting period. We opened offices in Hong Kong, Malaysia, and elsewhere, and we had a pretty good time of it at the beginning. We were trying to do things differently. The brand was based on providing a sort of very personalized service. We focused quite heavily on the UK, and we built the business from there. Then more recently, having exited that business, I moved back into the corporate world, into Jones Lang LaSalle's residential team there to head up their Southeast Asia business about 9 months to a year ago now. I mean, after lots of conversations, Abhii, and lots of discussions, and we were very aligned, I think. I mean, you on the buyer side and the problems that you had, and I decided that for various reasons that it was time to get out of the agency world. Just many frustrations on how the industry was working. And the more and more we talked, the more and more aligned we were. And here we are today trying to solve this very big problem, which is how to reshape how everything is working in what's really a sort of fragmented, broken system.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been quite a journey. And I know when you were at One Global, you were doing things quite differently, like you said. And I was practically buying every project that you are launching. And for some people who may not know, it's unusual for co-founders to have that client and seller relationship. It's rather rare. And so, but it just felt natural. It felt natural for us to work together because we understood the problems from different perspectives and different sides. Tell me, at what point did you feel that the system was broken. And I know there were a lot of launches and there were a lot of new countries being added for Asian buyers to explore. I remember there was a huge emphasis on Japan. But at what point did you realize that things weren't quite working and things have to change and the existing marketing or sales techniques or methods are outdated and something needs to be done differently?
If you wind it back even sort of 10, 12 years ago, just from a UK context, I have sort of Brexit as a pre-COVID where things started to change. I think it was also to do with the technology that was coming in, the way people now access information. They have so much more access through phones and through the internet and through information. And I think obviously the world has changed over that period as a result of technology, but geopolitics and everything else. So when I'm making is sort of 10 years prior, the way that you would market a particular product was all very sort of standard. You would work with a developer, you would advise them, this is the strategy, this is the markets, you would go to those markets. Developer might use one agency or different agencies. It used to just be one agency, but they would ultimately go there and know that they could access certain buyers and they would come back with certain results and it would cost them so much. And I think things have changed since that point. Yeah, there was probably a couple of markets, the UK being one, and maybe Australia and Japan, where it was like clockwork, and investors and the markets were going up. There was less volatility in the world, and prices were going like that. Taxation was different, so you didn't need to change that system because you had the internet, but you didn't. It was a very standard approach, and it worked. And you go to those buyers, and they would come to an event. Everyone is still following the same approach. Let's run an event. Let's go to the same people. Let's spend some money on digital marketing and things like that. So effectively, you're going out to the same buyer pool, and then you might add another small percentage over and above that through digital marketing. And where we are now, obviously, is digital marketing is, forget a few years ago, it's really coming to a stage where it's just so prohibitive now, and it's just costing so much. And so the whole system needs to change, both for buyers and sellers.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it both ways. There are more opportunities popping up. And as you said, technology is making a lot of markets accessible. But at the same time, with all the geopolitical instability, with unpredictable taxation and policies, people need that diversification. People are always anxiously looking for that diversification. And what was good to have is now becoming a must have for global investors. And speaking of investors, all your years, especially at One Global, what do you think was the difference between what serious buyers really wanted and what developers assumed they wanted? Do you think there was a big gap there?
If you run an event, and that's really where you're expecting to get your buyers from, but essentially you're running those events and you might be running the same people, and they're at different stages of their educational process. So developers want sales at that point in time, but because there's so much more information out there in so many markets now, that approach of just coming and doing an event, is very, very difficult. And if you're running events every single week, you're effectively targeting the same buyers, but they might be at different stages of their journey. And you're confusing them with lots of different markets as well. So if there's a technology layer and there's the ability for buyers to be able to do that at their own leisure, their own time, then developers can still market their products and still source buyers for it. But just the pressure's not on to have to sort of fit it into a certain period. That's the bit that's really broken here. There's more wealth creation in the world, and I think the buyers that are attending the types of events that certainly I've run over recent years, they're all not first-time buyers, but it's a longer cycle to get them from A to B to transact, and that's absolutely fine. That's no problem. But the serious buyers who are buying for different reasons, they will buy quicker, but they don't necessarily have the access to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to that. And I think that's a very powerful point there about education process. Cross-border investment requires a lot of education. And we talk about the 6 to 9 month education process if the buyers are not seasoned. And so there is that mismatch of expectations. So obviously, developers organizing these events want to drive sales and buyers go in, and as you said, they are at different points in their education journey. They want to understand more about the markets, the taxation, capital gains, whether it's a landlord friendly market. And I used to get very frustrated as a buyer when I'm asking some of these questions, and either people on the sales side did not have those answers, or they would be impatient and they would want to just say, hey, this is a great project. My sense would be we'll get to the project, but let me understand the market first. And that's why, we are doing what we are doing at Intric. But I must say that I've started to empathize a lot more with the developers you and I speak with. 15, 20 developers every week from different parts of the world. And it's challenging. It's really challenging for them. And what made you think? I remember our conversations on, and I was actually surprised by your conviction in this. I understood the problems from a buyer's point of view, but I was quite surprised that you were so convinced about it so quickly. What makes you think a platform or a community that we are building is what's needed right now to solve the problems for both the buyers and sellers?
I've been a believer for a long time that things needed to change. Just wasn't really sure what that looked like. And I think it's obviously evolved a lot and we've learned a lot and we've spoken to a lot of people on both sides of the fence and we've looked at how we can solve those problems. But if you look at it from a developer's perspective, right, what do they want? They want access to real buyers. They want access to agencies and partners around the world so that they can not just sell their products. I mean, obviously that's the end game, but actually the live data to see where trends are coming from so they can make informed decisions as to where they might go run a physical event. But ultimately, it's very hard, isn't it, that if you're sat there in a particular market and you're sat in a meeting and you haven't got that data at your fingertips, so as a sales director, you've just gone and dropped loads of money on something, best chance of success, but it just didn't work. Not because of the agency's fault or whatever else, but there might have been a blow up in the Middle East or some other country or something, and it just impacts that. You're spending a lot of money and getting nothing back. But you can also only access a couple of markets. I'm now based in Dubai at the beginning of this year, and obviously we've had the unfortunate situation here over the last few months, and we're now seeing capital flows changing. The market here has been very strong, and we're now seeing the diversification out. But as a developer, how quickly can you really react to that? Well, it'll take a while for you to mobilize, and then you've got buyers, so you might miss opportunities and things. We talk about what we're building, and we compare it to other industries that have built infrastructure, Stripe and Booking.com and these other equivalents. But the real estate world, there's nothing that enables that. There's no infrastructure like that. And I think the timing of what we're doing is hopefully very right. Because if we tried to do this 5 years ago, it probably wouldn't have been possible. The way technology is now, I think that's all changed. So we got a big vision. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is very simple. It's just match global capital with global opportunities and provide developers with access to around the world real time very quickly. They can react to that in real time. And then you've got obviously the investors around the world that are the members of the platform and they've got real time access to all the tools and everything they can do at their own ledger.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. The timing is important. Sometimes a platform like this, infrastructure like this can be a bit too early or sometimes too late. I think the timing is just right, even geopolitically speaking, in terms of AI. And obviously, we are an AI native business and an AI native platform. It just makes it a lot easier for buyers and sellers to interact with each other, get access to all the tools, everything. What do you think breaks the trust between a developer and a buyer? We speak a lot about a trust on Intric, and when it comes to cross-border purchases and investments, before you can even understand what is a good investment or a bad investment or exciting investment, you have to trust the other person. Different laws apply cross-border are not that straightforward, and you may not have a very good understanding of a certain jurisdiction. So, where do you think the trust breaks, and what do you think can be done to build that trust?
It's where Intric really started, wasn't it? I think which we don't really talk about so much because we talk about that connectivity and helping everyone in that ecosystem. But really, it comes down to once you bought a property, it's that whole communication thing, isn't it? If the whole process is made easy, they would buy more. It's having to, the updates that you get from vendors are inconsistent. The proactivity on that side. I mean, some are much better than others, but it's more about that whole infrastructure to support that portfolio management, third parties, whether it's a mortgage brokerage company or solicitors, everything's done on emails, things get lost in translation, information can be incorrect, compliance is not done properly. It's those sorts of things that help improve the trust. Other than the product itself, I think it's that whole part of the process. Once one of our members on the platform agrees to buy a property and they go through that process, so the whole thing is seamless and easy, then they will invest more, then they'll have more trust.
One of the things we definitely talk about is our interests aligning with those of the buyers. So we don't try to shove any property or any project down anyone's throat. So right now, I know we are working closely with a few family offices trying to find the right investment opportunities for them halfway across the world. and just the amount of time that goes into it, both on the platform side of things, the technology side of things, but also from a relationship side of things, and how seriously we take that responsibility. So that trust is earned. I think the very basis of that trust is the platform's goals have to be the same as the buyer's goals and the seller's goals, of course. But for us, as you rightly said earlier, matching the right opportunities with the right capital. So it starts with aligning our objectives and our goals. And secondly, just not providing information, because you can get access to that information. But how do you know what you're looking to purchase is actually good for you based on your circumstances? So we spend so much of that time trying to understand the buyers, right? From qualitative data, from our AI agents, from the AI property concierge, to actual team members like us and our teams who are understanding constantly and refining their understanding of what the buyers want, what the sellers are looking to do, which markets are emerging, which markets are overheated, and not be afraid to make the right recommendations. I think that trust is so essential for cross-border real estate, for any form of investment, but definitely for cross-border real estate, because one, it's a large investment. There are a lot of emotions involved, unlike a lot of other investments, and there is a fair amount of fear as well. So we try to address all of that with what we call our trust framework, something that's really, really important for us here at Intric. So the other thing I wanted to discuss with you is sellers have been using a lot of tools. And I remember in the early days when we were speaking to developers and agencies, they have so many tools, and we requested access to some of their tools just to understand how they run their business. And I just realized that in spite of all these tools, is not really effective. So, what do you think is missing there? And what do you think can change?
Being able to undertake detailed research around every single market at their leisure. What we're trying to do here is educate buyers and give them more access to different markets. So the product is one thing, the discovery is one thing, but actually it's that education. So on Intric, we've got everything, haven't we? From what are the taxes, what's the buying process in every market, what are the comparison tools, and all those sorts of things. So I think that educational piece is really important. We're actually helping our members match them with the right opportunities around the world through the sophisticated AI technology and algorithms and everything else that we've built. We take the vendors' marketing assets, but I think it's that educational process that's really key. And that's ultimately what members will get the benefit from when they join up to Intric.
So, James, you manage developer partnerships, agency onboarding. You speak with a lot of different stakeholders in the ecosystem across the world. I have a lot of respect for the work that you do. It's not always easy. Different countries, different kinds of businesses, understanding how they operate, what their requirements are, and the level of patience and understanding that you display is phenomenal. But I haven't asked you this question ever, so I'll ask you now. What out of all these things do you find most difficult to operationalize or manage? What is the most challenging?
It still comes down to expectations, doesn't it? I mean, we're still at an early stage of our journey at the moment, and obviously everything's sped up. Technology, trends are shifting constantly. Geopolitics is, everywhere, and everyone's facing different challenges. So even with what my role is, and doing that every day, figure that out. So it's going to be the data that's critical for everyone. But I think that's still the hardest bit at the moment. That's what excites me getting out of bed every day, is we're actually building something that's going to hopefully help change the way the industry works.
It's interesting how this is another form of education. So we have to educate all the partners on what we are building to help them. That's interesting. It's exciting, but sometimes it's difficult because people try to label us as a prop tech platform or a marketplace. And when we try to explain to them, this is an operating system that enables and empowers everyone in the industry, whether it's developers, agencies, third party providers, financing, furniture, property management, or buyers. It's a bit of a challenge sometimes, and it's getting easier. But I remember early on it used to be a bit trickier. And of course, your patience and your understanding of the market and having been in their shoes for so many years, that definitely helps them understand.
I think you're right. I think that comes down to technology, doesn't it? I think the industry as a whole, everyone wants change, right? Everyone wants these things that we're talking about. But I think sometimes that's quite hard to, because we're so involved with this every day and we know what we're building and but sometimes depending on who you're talking to, it can be a bit scary. It can be a bit scary the way technology is going and what it can do for you. I mean, I've learned just working with you, I've learned a huge amount on the technology front, but it is changing. And I think everyone has to realize that. Some people get it straight away, others don't, and that's absolutely fine. Why we're doing what we're doing, but how it benefits and how it works, that can be the scary bit to get your head around. But the change is coming.
Yes, the change has come and the pace of change is scary. And that's what we try to tell our partners, that leave the pace of change to us, because it's so difficult to keep up with all the agentic AI and how does that embed in a certain business and how does that impact your manpower? How does that impact your existing processes, the tools, the systems that you use, lead generation, marketing budgets, customer acquisition costs? So leave that to us. That's what we obsess over morning, noon, and night. And what we try to do is explain to them how what we are doing, as you rightly said, is helping them meet their business objectives. So that's our role in their business, in their lives. And speaking of roles that you have played, you did organize quite an extraordinary event, which of course I attended. There were people from 35 different countries. There were developers from across the world. I'm talking about the Global Property Expo that you organized last year. It was the first of its kind event in Singapore. And it was great to see some of the highest quality investors coming to an event like this. What did that tell you about the appetite that exists for global property?
It was something that I wanted to do for a long time. There's plenty of investors out there. Lots of people love buying real estate around the world, but they've only had access to certain markets. And in the agency world, we used to run events every week, different countries to the same people, pretty much the same people. We'd procure a few new prospective buyers here and there from our marketing campaigns, but ultimately it was the same people. And I just felt that whole model again was broken. Unless you had a really good product that was just happened to hit the spot at that point in time, the model just didn't work. So I was of the view that start with one event per year, invite developers, because developers want access to markets, they want to market their products, and they want to get in front of the maximum amount of people in one environment. And to then see where the demand lay. If you had properties and opportunities showcased from lots of different countries to investors, what trends came out of that? And then not just to showcase product, but particularly in a market like Singapore, the educational piece was very important. So to combine the educational piece with the product showcase, and that's what we did over 3 days. And we had lots of speakers, we had lots of people turn up. So I think what that told me was that my view was correct, that there was demand from New Zealand, from Japan, from the UK, from Australia, from Philippines, from Thailand, from all these different markets. There are plenty of investors out there. There's lots of liquidity in the world, but no one has the access to the rest of the world.
Yeah, there is a huge amount of interest. There's a really big appetite for markets that people don't normally get access to, and it's exciting for developers to get access to buyers from around the world. So tell me, from a developer's point of view, who are so used to working with traditional agency networks, what does working with Intric change for them on a day-to-day basis?
You can still run the traditional agency model alongside it, but ultimately it enables a developer to work with both agencies and buyers directly, or to spread their wings and be able to work with a significant number of partners around the world through one platform. There are many other platforms, B2B platforms out there, but we're not a B2B platform. We're ultimately B2C. The members are the vendors' clients, but the agency businesses can feed into that and they can have access and they can have all the tools. I think the other thing, what I would say about cross-border business, which is what we're trying to change, is if you're an agency, let's say, and you're an agency in, I don't know, Miami or New York, you might have a buyer for a market like Singapore or somewhere else the other side of the world, but help them find something around the world. So we're also empowering the agencies to be able to have access to the buying guides, to the tools and everything else, so that they can better inform themselves before. And it's about scalability, isn't it? If you're one particular developer and you can scale the opportunity through a platform like Intric, then you can access a huge number of agencies around the world without having to pick up the phone and spend 3 months devising a sales strategy and going and spending significant amounts of money on a particular campaign. You can see where those trends are coming from very quickly, and then you can react much more quickly, and then you could work with that particular partner in that particular market.
Exactly. And yeah, just to add to that, we definitely enable developers to work directly with buyers from around the world and equally agency partners from around the world. So it's not replacing one thing with another, it's supercharging every distribution channel and every sales channel for a developer and for agencies for that matter. Uh, Tell me, what do you think is the biggest unlock? Yeah, the thing that if we solve or if the industry comes together to solve changes everything.
For us, it's all about creating that ecosystem that's scalable around the world. If we can do that in every country around the world, we call it an operating system, don't we? We're not a threat to an agency, we're an enabler and to help them changing. So we have agencies in our ecosystem, we have developers in our ecosystem, we have secondary home vendors and partners. So if we can help increase everyone's revenue and provide them with more business purely simply because we are a matchmaker, aren't we? We're like booking.com. The objective is to match global capital with global opportunity and to help that particular buyer through that buying process, match them with the right partners, the right mortgage brokers and things like that, then we will have done our job and we will have solved that problem. It's just simply just changing the way the industry communicates with each other and works and where those capital flows are moving.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll ask you a question now that we are asked more than any other question on maybe, say, 25 times a week. And we have tried to answer that question in many different ways. We talk about Intric being the Android or iOS of the property world, or if you want to simplify, we obviously say booking.com for the property world so that it's easier for you to access opportunities depending on the industry, or it can be treated as a stock trading app. So it can be looked at in so many different ways because it is a very uh, broad and deep product and offering. So the resistance that we face on a regular basis is people asking us, is a digital platform even possible for cross-border real estate and for global cross-border real estate, maybe one or two markets? And we were very clear from the very beginning. We want to make it completely global. We already are in about 25 to 30 markets, and the plan is to get to about 70 markets in the next 3 or 4 months. And so people ask us that question all the time. Is it even possible? And the reason they ask that question is because they say real estate is all about relationships. It's very relationship driven. So how do we address that question and how do we convince them that it's possible, if at all it's possible?
I think what I would say is that completely fundamentally agree. Having been on the agency side for the last 20 years, AI technology is not going to 100% replace human beings in when it comes to buying and selling property. We don't confess that that's what we're trying to do. We're just simply trying to enable a buyer to find a seller in an ecosystem around the world in a far easier, streamlined way. So, point I'm making is we have a buyer, they want to buy a high-end property in London. We're simply connecting that buyer with the developer or with the agency that's acting on the other side. The journey then goes offline. They meet, they view, they do the transaction. We're not replacing. We're enabling and we're improving and we're helping and we're hopefully helping speed up that buyer finding that seller.
You spoke about matchmaking. That's what our goal is. We make it easier. We are not here to replace relationships. It's a relationship driven industry. What we do is we strengthen those relationships because relationships are good or bad based on the quality of service. It's not just about somebody claiming that they can do a lot of things for you, but actually delivering those things. So whether a buyer requests for some data, a buyer requests for some information, the buyer requests for some support in terms of how to finance their properties or how do they manage their properties. So just talking to them and saying all the right things is not going to make that relationship strong. What we try to do is everything that the buyer expects from the seller and everything that the seller expects from the buyer, we try and make those things easier so that the relationship actually does become stronger. So the idea is not to replace relationships, but strengthen them. Now, if I were to ask you 5 years down the line, what would life be for a buyer, for an agency, and for a developer using Intric? What would that look like?
I think from a buyer's perspective, it's that they can find what they want. So they've got that discovery. They can get connected with the right vendor or partner in that ecosystem. They can find the property, they can agree to buy it, and then the whole process is seamlessly done, the transaction. They can manage their portfolio and everything else. From an agency perspective, we're helping agencies find more buyers, but ultimately we're helping them increase their revenue, because it might be an agency that's just simply trading in their own market, but they've got plenty of clients that are diversifying or buying overseas. And through the technology, through the matchmaking, through all the things that Intric does, we can simply help their clients find the right investment around the world, and they benefit from that financially, as well as providing a better level of service. And then from a developer's perspective, in a similar context, but ultimately they're bringing down the cost of sales, they're finding more buyers. We're able to help them make informed decisions as to where to invest their money, but also what their product might look like. I sort of hope in the next few years we'll be delivering for all the different stakeholders.
It sounds like utopia for the real estate industry. The buyers are happy, the sellers are happy, the agencies are happy, everyone cuts their costs and everyone boosts their revenues. And it's possible and it's happening. And we hope that it'll continue to grow significantly. Thank you so much, James, for your time. Always great listening to your perspective, your experience, and what you've contributed to the industry, and encouraging everyone to innovate, and really excited for what Intric has in store for the world and what you will continue to do for the industry as well. Just a quick reminder for everyone to go check out Intric.club. That's INTRIC.club. Anything you'd like to add to that, James?
It's been a pleasure, and I love talking about what we do every day. But yeah, it's an exciting time for us. We're on a journey. We're trying to do something really big here, but we're already on that journey. We're at the first floor of a 100-story building, and we've got a long way to go.
Yes, I think we've probably moved to the second floor now, but still a long way to go.
Well,
it's a tall building.
We're on the second floor now. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time. Lovely speaking with you.
Yeah, thanks, Abhii.